Hey, I'm Jesse. Let's have a devotion. We're in Psalm 147, verses 15 through 18. Let's look at the text. He sends his command throughout the earth. His word runs swiftly. He spreads snow like wool. He scatters frost like ashes. He throws his hailstones like crumbs. Who can withstand his cold? He sends his word and melts them. He unleashes his winds and the water flows. Now, in a verse in yesterday's devotion, we saw the entire hydrological cycle described. God sends clouds on the earth. He prepares them for rain, makes the grass grow. This sustains the animals and the young ravens. So everything from evaporation, condensation, precipitation, vegetation, and then the sustenance of the ecosystems, the various species of animals that exist in both hemispheres. It's all accounted for poetically in these verses. And now we move from the liquid form of water to its frozen form and then back again, just in verses 15 through 18. All right. And this is described as the word of God, the command of God. He has commanded that it should happen this way. Right here we have snow, spreads like wool. We love it, by the way, when it snows. We live on Tiger Mountain. And so at the bottom of the mountain, if there are 6 inches of snow, there's like over a foot up here. There's this like one uphill, blind, sharp chicane. And then you on Tiger Mountain Road, appropriately enough. And then before you get to the road that you turn to get to our house, boom, there's this threshold that we call Narnia, because like suddenly right there, it's snowier than it was at the bottom. Or if there's no snow, there's snow there. And, my wife and I were born and raised in Florida, and so we still geek out every time it snows. Now, having a rear-wheel drive car, I don't like that so much, but we love this. When he spreads snow like wool, he scatters frost like ashes. And then he throws hailstones like crumbs. So we have snow, frost, and hail, all frozen. Now, this is not the collective of the text, but I did choose this because of this structure. We have his word, his command throughout the earth, equated to liquid water that runs swiftly, here in verse 15. And then in verse 18, water flows again. So in verses 15 and 18, we see liquid water. And then in verses 16 and 17, we see every form of frozen water, snow, frost, hail. And so God's sovereign over both. There's something to that, isn't there? When the water is flowing smoothly, God is sovereign. When the rivers are frozen, God is sovereign. He tells the water to flow. He tells the water to freeze. He tells the water to flow again. Consider the seasons depicted here, from fall to winter to spring, in 4 verses. Every form of frozen precipitation going back to liquid form. Why? Because his word runs swiftly. He has sent his command throughout the earth. And here in verse 18, he sends his word and melts them. When it says melts them, it's talking about the snow, the frost, the hail. He unleashes his winds and the water flows. So we see God's sovereignty over frozen precipitation, water in liquid form. He's sovereign over the wind as well. God is sovereign over the elements. He's sovereign over the seasons. He's sovereign over all of it. Now, just one brief theological insight I want to give. This reminds me of the book of Job. And in the book of Job, Job suffers incredible loss because the devil has just singled him out, claiming that his love for God is illegitimate, saying that if you take that hedge of protection away from him, Job's going to curse you to your face. God gives Satan parameters within which he may attack Job. Job loses his family. All of his kids die. And then Job, in his grief, does not accuse God of wrongdoing. He blesses the name of the Lord. He gives praise to God. He was a wealthy man. He praised God. He lost everything. He praised God because God's worthy of worship. Even when Job's wife was telling him, curse God and die. Even when Job's friends were surrounding him. At first they were good. We've seen that in a recent devotion in the last few weeks. At first they just came and, in the New Testament sense, wept with the one who's weeping. And just by being there, they didn't say anything. They were just simply sitting there. But then they start talking and they start practicing, this whole idea of karma is not new. Long before karma was a word, it was a concept among believers of God, and it's chronicled in the book of Job. Far older, by the way. The book of Job is far older than any Eastern mystic teaching about the cyclical nature of time and reincarnation and karma. I believe that karma is precisely anti-gospel. According to karma, you do bad things and bad things happen to you. You do good things and good things happen to you. You get what you deserve. That is a nutshell version of karma. According to the gospel, we don't get what we deserve. What we deserve, all of us, is hell forever because of our sin. What we get if we confess Jesus as Lord, called upon by the Holy Spirit, learning that our names are written in the Lamb's Book of Life, what we get is heaven. So according to the gospel, sinners get what we don't deserve, and we don't get what we do deserve. Yet, Christian karma, quote unquote, is still alive and well and healthy and can be found even in biblically sound churches by misguided people who echo the false counsel of Job's friends. All right, let's be real here. Let's be honest for a second. All right, you got some Job friends. When something horrible happens to your family and they sit down and start asking you, okay, what did you do? You must have done something to deserve this. This horrible car accident, this cancer diagnosis, I've seen this happen, like the death of your child. Suddenly sinners come up with stones in their hands. Sinners who claim the name of Christ, who have their own sin, have been saved by grace and forgiven for absolutely everything, zoom in on the afflicted one who was already grief-stricken and start asking questions. All right, what'd you do? There's got to be something. And then this holier than thou, what must be condescending, no matter how sweetened the words are, they are condescension from hell. You must have done something, sinner. Because God did this to you to punish you for sin. Like I've said before, if you view all suffering as discipline from God, it's going to jack you up. It's going to mess up your whole theology and your whole view of God. And it's an unbiblical view. Job suffered because he was righteous. It's like you discount the existence of the devil completely. In the book of Job, God shows up and silences the stupid friends with a series of questions. Like, stand up. I'm going to question you. You're going to answer me like a man. Who are these idiots who darken my counsel with their foolishness? And it's a fireworks display of the incredible works of God behind the scenes of the universe that no mortal can possibly conceive. And there's even some prophetic significance in them too, but that's another teaching for another day. It's really amazing to behold. The Leviathan, for example, is there in this fireworks display of the omnipotence and omniscience and omnipresence of God. Now, in that book, the means by which Satan slaughtered Job's family included natural disasters like tornadoes, whirlwinds. That is absolutely significant. After a tsunami hit Japan, a lot of the atheists that I follow online immediately thought they were capitalizing on the deaths of people. I think one of them was on Christmas Day to see God's not real. Somehow citing some imaginary passage like that God promised to never allow bad things. I don't know what Bible my atheist authors I follow are reading. Dawkins is the only one that I know who seems to have at least read the Bible, but he hate read it. And he committed classic Marcionism, which we talked about yesterday. And in the book of Job, it is clearly described that God has given Satan the controls over climatological phenomena. He's given Satan the freedom to then incur tornadoes with the purpose of killing Job's family because of Job's righteousness. So let's unpack that briefly. Like in light of this psalm that describes God's sovereignty over, frozen precipitation in all of its forms, and God's sovereign command over the climate, the atmosphere, the wind, snow, the frost, the hail. If God's sovereign over the wind, why did a tornado kill Job's kids? It's because God, in his sovereignty, allowed the devil to do that. God is sovereign, period. But to blame God for everything that the devil does, thereby blasphemously calling God the devil, we err, and we err significantly. Natural disasters are sometimes brought on, according to the book of Job, because of the attack of Satan. Now, do you then hold God responsible for everything that the devil does? I believe you hold the devil responsible for what the devil did. And I am in no position to hold God responsible for anything. And having read the Bible, I know that God works all things together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. In the end of the book of Job, Job is restored. I imagine he is still wounded. As a bereaved parent myself, I know he carried those wounds with him for life. But wow, the billions of people who have found healing and meaning, even in redemption in their times of suffering because of the book of Job, after what God allowed upon his life, outweighs Job's grief. In my son's death, there is only one death. There are, we estimate, 152 lives. That's pretty amazing. Then I look at my own loss and I don't struggle with the question why. I see that God has demonstrated his mighty works through the story of my son, Aiden. And my suffering is only a fraction that of Job's. So look at the great things that God did through Job's suffering. The devil thought he was given the keys to the weather system and thought he would win. The devil was wrong. The devil was wrong. Don't read into natural disasters and natural evil in which something happens like a tornado, an earthquake, a volcanic eruption, or hurricane, and it takes human lives. Look at that and then blame God for what the devil did. Blame the devil for what the devil does. Look to God for redemption beyond it. God is the God of redemption. The devil only thinks that he wins in those moments. At the end of the day, God is the one who is sovereign over seasons. He sends his command throughout the earth. His word runs swiftly. He spreads snow like wool. He scatters frost like ashes. He throws his hailstones like crumbs. Who can withstand his cold? He sends his word and melts them. He unleashes his winds and the water flows. God is ultimately sovereign.